And you know what? Yes, Chelsea played bad, and yes, they gave chances away, but you've got to capitalise on those chances, and Arsenal did. It felt like there were so many breakaway opportunities every single time. And credit to Arsenal, credit to the young players at Arsenal. I thought Odegaard was fantastic in midfield. He really was. And I remember when Odegaard was 16, and he was like shopped around everywhere. I mean, he came and trained at Liverpool, and Jamie Carragher and Steven Gerrard showed him around.
Came to Arsenal for a bit as well.
He literally went everywhere, didn't he? I remember he went everywhere. And then in the end, he signed for Real Madrid, and that was a mistake. But he's rebuilt himself. And now at Arsenal, he looks fantastic, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's really come into his own. I think he benefited from the fact that he had a little loan spell at Arsenal in the second half of last season, when our season was essentially already over in the Premier League anyway, where people were looking at us going, well, they've sort of really messed this up, and there wasn't an awful lot to play for in the Premier League. So what happened was he kind of got that opportunity to acclimatise. He was surprisingly fit as well when he came in, for somebody who hadn't played any football for Real Madrid for that entire season up until that point. So he's done really, really well. He seems to live and breathe Mikel Arteta's way, which is great. But it's his off-the-ball work that I've been more impressed with. We all know what a talent he is with the ball at his feet, but off the ball, he works so incredibly hard. Yeah,
talk about an old head on young shoulders. Maybe because he's been around so long. And although you're right, although not playing at Real Madrid, I mean, just the training sessions with some of their superstars must be something. He's got that experience, and I mean, Jez just pointed out he's the national team captain as well, and possibly going forward, you think of next season for Arsenal, maybe the standout name to be captain of Arsenal next season.
Yeah, for me, he should be given the opportunity. I think there's been a lot of talk about Kieran Tierney as well, but the issue for me is his fitness. You can't keep him fit. You can't have a captain that is rarely present. So that's a big problem for me. Odegaard is a captain at international level as well. He captains his country, Norway. So he knows what it takes to be a leader. But just sort of when you watch Arsenal and you watch Odegaard in the flesh, you sort of get a better idea of what he does off the ball in terms of the way he organises people. And Mikel Arteta's worked really hard to implement this pressing game. But pressing only works if the first layer is then followed up by the second layer and the third layer. It's got to be done as a unit. And you always see Martin Odegaard be the guy that sets the tempo, that leads the charge, but he's always wary of what's going on behind him, and he's always urging people forward. And he's a real leader, and I'm really sort of enjoying watching him grow. And this is such a young team, and he's still so young as well, and people forget that because of how long, as you say, he's been around. But interestingly, that team that Arsenal fielded last night was eligible to play in the Premier League under 23s. Yeah. They had 2 senior players in there that were over the age of 23.
That's incredible.
But the rest of the team were eligible.
And
they could have played as well, because you're allowed a couple.
And that's why it's going to be inconsistent. And look, Arsenal fans are going to get upset, but that's where you are going to get the results you've had in the lead up to defeats at Palace, Brighton, Southampton. And that's where you're then going to get one of those. It's going to be like that until maybe he does buy a few more senior players. There's been a lot of talk about bringing in a striker, and there are so many good young strikers out there, but maybe you do need a 27, 28-year-old. You know what I mean? A few more senior players. Obviously, look, Partey's injured, and fingers crossed he can get rid of his injury history. He's an experienced player, but maybe you do need a couple more experienced pros for next season.
Yeah, and if you go back to the start of the season when Edu spoke to the Sky cameras about the process, which, that buzzword that everybody seems to hate. When he spoke about that, he did say, he literally said that the first phase was to build the young core, to develop that group, to get them all together, to turn them into a unit, and that the next stage would be to go out and add ready-made players and more experience. So it's over to the club now this summer to go out and do that. I think we've been impressed overall by what we've seen from this young group, but you're absolutely right. We do need that added bit of experience and know-how.
Angie Kelly was here a bit earlier on the talkSPORT Edge app, and they were talking about a possible number of strikers. Ivan Toney was mentioned, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Marcus Rashford, Lautaro Martinez, which is going to be difficult from Inter Milan. Who do you want up front? Is there anyone that you kind of looked at? I know who you want. You've already spoken about him 100 times, the Benfica striker.
Yeah, I'd like to see Darwin Núñez coming, but the reason I like him is because he gives you that aerial presence, so that if you do need to work the ball into the penalty area, you can. But also, I like the fact that he gives you a threat in behind. That was a difference with Arsenal last night and in previous weeks, where there was a threat in behind and we caused Chelsea problems on the break. With Lacazette, you don't really get that. And people like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I don't think really give you that either. I don't think Ivan Toney gives you that. I think that Rashford can. I think he's got the pace on the break for sure. But then I'd have questions about his link-up play and his presence in the penalty area if you need to work the ball wide. So I think that he just feels, to me, Darwin Núñez, like an all-rounder and someone that ticks the most of those boxes that we're looking for.
Top four race is now, it's always been on, but now it's well and truly on with that performance. You have to back this up, though, with the game against Manchester United, doesn't it? And I guess that will be the fear for Arsenal fans because of those results we've had recently. Can they go back to back against one of the big boys?
Yeah, but we had we've had a few results this season that have been like sort of performances that have sparked us into really good runs. And we've come off the back of a really poor run, obviously. And I'm not saying that it was okay to lose at Southampton or to lose to Brighton or to Crystal Palace. But when you do turn it back around with a performance like this at a place like Stamford Bridge, I think that does really lift you. So I am quite confident that we can do something against Manchester United. But I keep saying this, we don't have to be flawless between now and the end of the season. We just have to be better than Tottenham. And they're not a side that I look at and think are going to win every single week. They go away to Brentford this Saturday, which is a difficult game. They've still got Liverpool to play at Anfield. And there's a couple of other games in there against sides who might be fighting for their lives down the bottom of the table. So it's hard. You've got to take it week by week. You really do.
Let's hear from your manager, Mikel Arteta, who spoke with Joe Shannon after the game. This is what he had to say. Very reminiscent of those League Cup sides that Arsene Wenger used to play.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? Like all those young superstars. Like remember when it was a young Jack Wilshere with a Theo Walcott and a Diaby and Cesc was cut. It was very reminiscent of that, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And it's exciting, but like you said earlier on, you have to remember, and every now and again you have to take stock and realise that there is going to be that inconsistency. They're not going to be at 10 out of 10 every single week. You saw the brilliance last night of Saka and Smith Rowe when they're at it, but for the last 3 weeks they've been pretty much non-existent. So that's not to knock them. As Mikel Arteta said in that little clip, they shouldn't have this level of responsibility, but they do because it's the way the club have decided to move forward, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, Arsenal putting themselves in good position to claim that top four spot, but as Harry said, there it won't be easy. Just have to match what Tottenham do, and then obviously the penultimate game of the season is against Tottenham.